it's a new year, and unfortunately, higher drug prices are coming into play. Drug makers, including Bristol Myers Squibb, Pfizer, and Biogen, this week announcing hiked U.S. list prices on more than 50 drugs. That's including life-saving cancer and HIV medicine, bringing the total number of prescription medicines that will cost more this year to over 250. That's according to the healthcare research firm 3 Axis Advisors. So what does that mean for you in 2020? Well, joining me now is Dr. Katie Jarvis, who launched BedBeacon, a platform and efficiency tool designed to streamline the system through cost reduction and transparency. Dr. Katie, thank you so much for joining me once again on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Dr. Katie was on with us last week to talk about a similar discussion, but explain to us what's happening here in this instance. It's well known that people in the U.S. pay much more for many prescription drugs than they do in other countries, and now it appears to be getting worse.
It is getting worse. In fact, it's getting worse faster than inflation. So if you had $100 in your wallet, it went up to $102 roughly as far as the inflation rates, but the drug makers are raising the prices even more than that. They're trying to sound nice by saying that they're pledging to not increase the rate of the medications by more than 10% this year in an election year. 10% sounds like a lot, so they've raised it less than 10%, but still massively this year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that's something that they're trying to appease lawmakers. Because they've been taking some heat from lawmakers, especially right now when it comes to the opioid crisis and when it comes to prices that have been raised by saying, hey, look, we're not raising it 10%. But as you mentioned, some of these prices are ridiculous. And then if you look at the combination drugs, which a lot of the top, I was looking at the top 10 list of combination drugs, and most of those are for people that are dealing with heart disease. Yeah, you have one or two that deal with anxiety. But some of these combination drugs are rising as much as 16,000%.
It's incredible. And as a doctor, I can prescribe each of these medications separately. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that the more medications somebody has to remember to take in a day, less likely we're to take it. I mean, that's true for me too. So in order to help reduce the number of pills people have to take, it's nice to have combination drugs. And heart failure is a problem that you take a lot of medications for. Mm-hmm. So I don't see why they need to increase their rates that much, except for that they have been having this big tiff about who gets to regulate their pricing and what that pricing will look like. So I think last time I was on your episode, we talked about the transparency push back and forth. Right. With Trump saying that we should have transparency, and then lawmakers trying to push through bills for that, and then federal courts saying, no, Department of Health and Human Services or Medicare doesn't have the authority to do this. And then coming back and saying, well, let's give them the authority. The lawmakers try to put a bill through for that, to negotiate pricing on 250 meds. And then we went through the year end, and pharmaceutical companies wrapped up their books and gave bonuses based upon that. And then after that, in January, we see 250 meds. The same number of meds that they wanted to have Medicare negotiate had an increase in the pricing. So I think this is definitely a negotiation strategy. It's like, when you list a house on the market, you ask for more than you're going to settle for. The unfortunate piece about that is it really impacts the American public. As they're trying to afford their medications for things that are really common, like heart failure, diabetes, skin cancer. These are medications that are on the list to increase. It's not really rare disease. These are the most common diseases that we're seeing impacted by this list. And so the most common problems people have.
We're speaking with Dr. Katie Jarvis here on the Moon Griffon Show, and I'll give her a chance at the end of our segment to further explain BedBeacon. For those of you that may not be sure what exactly it is, I just kind of described it earlier, but I'll let her tell you a little bit more in depth. But we're talking to her about higher prescription drug prices for the new year. Now, you brought up President Trump, and he made it a key pledge of his 2016 campaign to lower U.S. prescription drug prices. He sent out a tweet in November addressing this as well. Now, you mentioned the Health and Human Services and the departments being in charge and the squabbling. what's interesting here is New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and it's a side, he's not normally on the side with President Trump, but here's where they are actually appearing to come together. Cuomo announcing last month that he was proposing to allow prescription drugs to be imported from Canada, which is a move that Trump's Food and Drug Administration supports. So with that new proposal being brought forth, does that make you actually hopeful that politics could actually bring some needed reform for prescription drug pricing?
I think it's great to look at, can we import at a lower price? They're trying to actually get a bill through that says that the pharmaceutical companies have to match the pricing of 5 other countries, Canada being one of them. Mm-hmm. So at the time they're trying to get that through, they're also saying, well, okay, if that doesn't go through, then maybe we just import them from a lower price country. And I don't think that Canada, from what I'm seeing from their reports, has the capacity to handle all of our medications as far as the manufacturing capacity and the amount of medications they have. But I think they would increase their capacity once we have the demand. And I think that is a card that the Trump administration and that Congress can play to say, look, we're up against some pretty powerful pharmaceutical companies, but we have some power in this game too, to try to negotiate on our behalf. And I think that they can look beyond Canada. They can look to Europe as well. And I know that in border town, Texas, people go across the border to get their medication. Yeah. So we certainly do see a rise in the number of medical tourism facilities, meaning you go to another country to have your treatment and come back to the United States.
Right.
And so that's been growing incredibly.
Yeah, someone came the other day, as a matter of fact, and wanted to show Moon specifically how his dentist visit, it was the numbers would have been astronomical here to have a certain procedure done. And when he went overseas, somewhere in South America, that the prices were incredibly, South America, the prices were incredibly lower to have the same procedure done. And so that was one thing that he wanted to point out to us, a real life example of that.
Absolutely. So it certainly, I think we're seeing that because of the high prices we face here. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that in the new year. And I think that the U.S. looking to allow importation of medications from other countries is something that we should be doing if they continue to raise prices like this.
Yeah, you talked about the demand here in America for these prescription drugs, and would Canada be able to meet that? Nearly 7 in 10 Americans take a prescription drug, and about 50% of Americans take at least 2. And so, yes, the demand would certainly be pretty massive, and hopefully they can get this thing figured out as 2020 rolls along. And like we said, hopefully politics can play for the good of the people that the politicians are supposed to serve. So, Katie, before I let you go, as we're speaking with Dr. Katie Jarvis, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about BedBeacon, which is the platform and efficiency tool that we were talking about earlier.
Sure. So we really care about the quality of care of patients going out of the hospital into nursing home, hospice, inpatient psych, home health. And we have developed a software platform that allows to sort the facilities based upon the quality and also lifestyle factors that they offer to patients. We've done that in a way that is incredibly cost-effective for hospitals so that they should make and save money off of this, and also benefits patients in a way where you can see with transparency what the quality is and how the facilities stack up against each other, and also just incorporate the human aspect of it. Can my dog visit the nursing home? What is the alcohol policy? What's the smoking policy? Those kinds of questions are questions that anybody has in a move. And moving to a nursing home or moving to hospice, visiting hours for hospice, the languages that the hospice team speaks, those are things that are really important. And so we're just trying to bring that information to patients at their bedside by offering it to the hospitals and giving them what they need.
And how can our listeners find out more about this?
We have a website, bedbeacon.com, BEACON.com.
All right, that's bedvegan.com. Dr. Katie Jarvis has been our guest this morning. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.